Hi, this is my Joe's 2006 router. I'm videotaping this to show you kind of what the machine is right now and an upgrade I'm getting ready to do to it. That's kind of a mishmash of several other people's designs all thrown together into one. I'll back up here and give you a little bit wider shot of the machine and you can have a look at it. I've got this one mounted on a roller cabinet. It's 100% MDF construction. I didn't use any HDPE like in the regular Joe's. I just didn't happen to have any at the time. These parts here around that hold the router and a few others that should be plastic aren't. It's worked surprisingly well. It's done a really good job. I'm just trying to increase some of its capabilities and maybe make it just a little more rigid than what it is now. Here you can see the machine a little bit better on its plywood torsion box stand and the locking rollers on the bottom. It has 10 pitch Acme lead screws with dumpster nuts and 276 ounce bipolar drive motors. 2-horse Sears router with a quick change collet. I'll be retaining the table and reusing the bearings on the long axis. I'll just be replacing the entire gantry, and I'll probably use the same router for the time being until I can come up with something else. Here's a shot of what I call the Y-axis motor drive. I've got the other end up here. I used Lovejoy couplers on the original with the rubberized crosses, which probably had a tiny bit of slop in them. So I'm using the dumpster couplers on the new machine, hopefully to eliminate any movement there. Here's something that a few of you may find useful on your existing machines. What I did was I needed a place to run the cables to the carriage, and something that would be flexible and be able to move back and forth as the carriage went back and forth. And what I took was a piece of just plastic waterline tubing. I guess it's PEX. I think it's 3/8 or something. I just mounted a little block on the side of the gantry, drilled a hole that was a nice snug fit that I kind of had to press it in there by hand, and did the same thing on the far side of the carriage over there, and just took my cords, wire tied to the PEX, and then just covered them with some flexible conduit, split conduit, and it worked real well. There were times when the shelf behind there was really close to catching it, but just had to put the machine in the right place. It may be a little hard to see with all the clutter in the background, but this is the new gantry, new Z-axis and router mounts, new energy chain style homemade cable carrier. The lead screws are 5-start, so 2 turns per inch. I've got some followers that support the lead screws that are pulled by the gantry or the carriage, so there's never more than a couple feet unsupported on the upper screw. You'll notice that the extrusion runs well beyond the ends of the gantry legs. On this side, someday I hope to put an outboard tool rack for a tool changer. We'll see. On this side, I'm going to mount a converted wood lathe on the outside for a rotary axis, for a 4th axis, and that's already in the works, but I haven't gotten very far with it yet. The sides of this one have been modified. The entire height is shorter than the original, but since I'm only using a 4-inch high extrusion, I still get actually a little bit more travel on the Z and a little bit more height between the table and the bottom of the router. I've stiffened up the sides with 3/16 by 1.5" angle, which also mount the extrusion to the gantry legs. Pretty much the whole pattern for everything is off Joe's original drawings. It's just the upper part of the legs that have been redesigned. The motor will mount on top of the extrusion here. I'll be reusing the bearings off of the original gantry on the insides here. I think that's about the only original part off the gantry I'll need, other than the electronics, motors, switches, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that it'll be a little more rigid. Obviously, with the faster lead screws, I'll get much better rapids. And also keep the motors down in their torque range when I am cutting. It seems to be pretty solid, pretty sturdy right now. It's hard to tell before I get it mounted on the table because it's a little wobbly on my sawhorse, so you can't tell what's flex and what's just movement on the sawhorse. So I wanted to get this down on video before I start tearing down the other machine, and it won't be long. I'll probably start on that tonight. So I'll try and make some updates as I go and report back.